So now let's talk about pseudocode. So pseudocode is a pretty simple concept that is going to be invaluable to you, especially as a new coder. And all pseudocode is where you sit down at your IDE, your coding environment, and in your language, so English, Spanish, Russian, you sit there and you actually type out what you want your program to do. So basically you sit there and you say, okay, the program should ask for, let's say, a username and password. Okay, once it has the username and password, it should see if the username and password is in the database. If it is in the database, let the person into the account. If not, do something else. You actually type all of this out in normal, again, human language, and then what you're going to do is you're going to take that pseudocode and then you're going to replace it with the actual code that you need in the programming language that you've decided to use. This is a very useful tool, especially as a new programmer, because many times you don't know what programming language you need in order to create whatever solution that you're going to be creating, right? So again, we're going to be going through these classes with front-end languages and back-end languages. We're going to talk about database languages, a whole bunch of different languages out there. And one of the problems for you as a new person is you're not sure what language to use, right? So if you sit down and you try to write out an application entirely in Python, one of the problems you might run into is that Python literally doesn't do what it is you're trying to get it to do. So what's nice, if you write everything out in, again, normal human language, is you can sit there and you can see what you want your code to accomplish, and then you can just do some basic research to see basically what language or what you need to accomplish that specific block of code. And then you can go through and you can slowly build up your program knowing how you expect your program to operate and then adding code into it. So to give you an idea of what I'm talking about, let's go over to the computer so I can kind of show you how this workflow actually operates. So here we are at my IDE called VS Code. I am going to open up a new file, and now I'm going to think about what kind of application I want to create. Let's say I want to create, an AI application that allows users to ask questions. So basically, I just want to create a simple AI application that will allow my users to be able to ask questions. So I sit here and I start thinking, okay, how do I want this program to operate? So I'm going to say, allow user to ask a question. So that's going to be one component. Take question and send to AI. Okay, let's see here. Print result of AI. Right? So that's going to be pretty simple right there. So allow a user to ask a question, take question and send to AI, print result of AI. And so this is an idea of what I want to occur. Now, the curious thing about this is there's a lot of ways to solve this particular problem. So again, when we talk about artificial intelligence, this is essentially LLMs, and there are a lot of solutions out there. There's ChatGPT, obviously. There's Gemini from Google. There's Ollama, which is local. A whole bunch of different things. So I can sit here and I can start thinking about it. And, with this whole AI thing, I can say, should be local AI, and then maybe I can say, let's use Ollama. So I know what Ollama is, so I'm just going to say we're going to use Ollama here. Now, I've written this out, and this is starting to get a little bit long, and so what I can say is, I can do here, say, okay, take question and send to AI. Here I can just say Ollama, right? So I can kind of delete all of that, again, to simplify everything. So, okay, so allow user to ask questions, take question and send to AI/Ollama, print the result of AI. Then I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about this is going to be a command line application. So CLI, I'll show you how this works in a second. So it's going to be a CLI app. And then I'm sitting here and thinking, okay, well, if it's going to be a command line app, I don't want to just simply ask one question and then have the script exit at the end. send. So I might do something like this. You'd say while true. So I want this to be a while true loop that will allow people to ask questions, send the question to AI, the whole 9 yards. Then I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about this. I can say take a question and send to AI. Again, I know how coding works, so I probably want to send this to a function. So I might say something like AI Olama function, and then up here I might say I want a function for Olama, right? So I'm going to have a function for Olama. We're going to have CLI-app, while true, allow user to ask a question, take the question and send AI to the Olama function. So we got the Olama function up here, print result of AI, right? And then I'm sitting here and I'm looking at this and it's like, well, okay, so if we're going to be using Olama, and I've already decided that we're going to be using Python, I can go, okay, here, import Olama module. And now let's say I might not understand how the Olama module works, so I simply put this here. When we see these hashtags here, basically these are comments in Python, so that when I start writing my code, all of this has been commented out and I don't get into any weird issues. Okay, so that's not looking too bad here. What I can do is I can go over to ChatGPT, because again, ChatGPT is not AI, but it is very useful, and I can say Olama module in Python, code to make a request. All right, so I can go, so I'm asking basically how do you actually make a request in Olama? So it's going to tell me pip install Olama. So here, this is going to say import Olama, so it's the Olama module. Right, so we have the import the Olama module, response, Olama chat, and then print response, and all of that is there. So what I can do is I can copy this, and again, this is how you do it, and we're going to have this Olama function here. Now, you might not fully understand what I'm doing, just kind of go with the flow at this point. Okay, so I've got this. So I'm going to define an AI function. We're going to be sending it a query, and then basically I'm just going to copy and paste what I just got from ChatGPT, right? So response equals Olama chat. We're going to be using something called pi here, query. So this is the value that's going to come into this function. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete all this. And then I'm just simply going to plug a query in there. And then I am going to return the response that comes back. So there we go. So now I have the AI function. Let me just do this real quick. Okay, so there we go. Okay, so now, I have a function for Olama. Define AI, response is blase blase, and then once we go through the response, we are going to return what the response is, and we're going to kill those parentheses there. So this is what the function is going to look like. Up here, we're going to import the Olama module. I go over here, I go, oh, okay, to import the Olama module, what I do is I simply do import Olama. So that's going to import the Olama module for me. I'm going to come down here and I'm going to start looking at this. Okay, let's do this. So this gets a little bit easier. So, okay, so I have a while true loop. So again, with the command line, I want to continuously go through, keep doing a loop. So I can do a while true here, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say query equals, right? Allow user to ask a question. There's something called the input function, and I can say ask a question. Okay, so that is how the user is going to ask the question. Then I can come down here. Answer is going to come from equal AI query, right? So basically, the query is going to be the people who are going to ask a question. We're going to take the query, we're going to send it up to this AI function. We are going to get the return back. That is going to give us the answer, and then we can simply print out what the answer is. Now I look at this and I can then basically run this at this point, right? I can hit Control S. I can say class Olama -demo. I can hit save. right? And so if we look at this, so we should import the Ollama module. This should be the Ollama function. While true, query equals ask a question, get the answer from the function, print the answer. Then I'm going to hit the go button here. And so it asks me to ask a question. So here I can say, I don't know, what is a tree? I hit the enter button and it says tree is a perennial plant that has an above ground stem, blase, 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 and then is a while true loop. So it loops through to ask to give me the prompt again. So now that I have the prompt, I can say, what is a dog? I hit enter. The answer to your question is a dog is a domesticated mammal, blase, blase, blase. What is a mouse? And then it gives me another answer. So this is the basic, very basic idea of what pseudocode is. You come through here and you write in perfectly normal human language what you want to accomplish, and then you go back through your code and you replace what you've written with the actual code itself. So that shows you why pseudocode is valuable. And it also shows you how AI or LLMs can be used when you are going to be creating your applications with different programming languages. There's this whole idea right now with what's called vibe coding, that basically you should just sit down at an AI, basically give it queries and have it develop your entire application. The problem that you run into is when you do that, if you don't understand what the AI has written and you don't understand the entire application that's been created, that can be an absolute disaster to maintain later. Remember, as a technology professional, it is not simply about building what you are able to maintain. It is about building something that somebody 2 or 3 or 5 years down the pike will be able to maintain, right? Once you have quit the job and then your replacement has quit the job and their replacement has quit the job, will the next person be able to maintain whatever it is that you've created? That is one of the marks of being a professional. And so this, with pseudocode, what you're able to do is you're able to type out what you want your program to do, the specific tasks you want your program to do, and then you can go to AI and, if you need to connect to a Postgres database, you may not have that off the top of your head. So you're like, oh, how do I do an insert into a Postgres database using Python? And then it'll spit out the result. You look at it, you make sure it looks how it's supposed to, and then you simply can copy and paste that specific bit of code. Again, if you're sitting there and the boss said, I don't want you using Ollama, I want you using ChatGPT. Again, you have the pseudocode there about how this is supposed to work. You can go to the AI, say, hey, what is the code to add a ChatGPT? Basically how the ChatGPT function works. It can give you that specific block of code, and then you can dump it in to your script and have that functionality be there. This is also very useful too, again, with figuring out what programming language you're actually going to need in order to solve your problem, right? Instead of simply diving in with Python or C# or Java or whatever else, you can write out the basic flow of your code and then sit there and do some research to find out what programming language does whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish best, right? That's one of the great things with pseudocode. And also the thing too is even when you're typing, when you're writing code, many times it's kind of like writing a term paper. Basically, you're just kind of writing a term paper in a different language. And sometimes you just, you draw a blank. You're like looking, and you're like, I know how to do that, or I think I know how to do that. You just can't bring it to the top of your mind. So you can go through, and again, you can write out all the other code as you normally would. You can just get to the spot and you can go, and then you can just type out, this is what's supposed to happen here. And then you go to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And then once you've gone to have a cup of coffee or a little bit of a break, you can come back and then take a look at that particular block and do the research or whatever else. It's one of the ways too to keep you in the flow. So when you code, people talk about being in the flow where you just sit there and you kind of zen out and you're coding. Well, one of the ways to stay in the code is not to stop when you run across a major problem. problem that's going to get you out of the flow. Again, SQL statements or whatever, CSS is a nightmare sometimes, right? You just get to a point where you just really don't want to deal with CSS right now, so you can just simply type out something. Background color should be red if this value is something, and should be green if this value is something. Leave that as is, and then go through and continue with typing out your code, and then go back to it once everything else is finished and you're in a better mindset for being able to deal with that particular block that you are dealing with. So anyways, that's all pseudocode is. As with many things in the technology world, an incredibly simple concept that is also just invaluable when you're going out there and building things.